Hey YouTube, RicoKnows. Every offseason, I like to rank my top 10 players at every single position group, right? So I do top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 running backs. And for top 10 wide receivers, I usually do it a little different, where I talk about the top 10 wide receivers overall, or maybe in the Power 4 or Power 5. And then I have another chart where I talk about the top 10 wide receivers in the group of 5. And last year, my top 10 group of 5 wide receivers, number 1 was Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. Rightfully so, just a ton of production. Number 2 was actually Joshua Cephas at UTSA. I thought Frank Harris was going to throw him the rock a million times, and I was hoping for Cephas to have an amazing season. Didn't quite live up to my expectations. But number 3 on my list for yet another season in a row was Tory Horton. Well, I can tell you guys right now, Tory Horton, Colorado State, will not be number 3 this year. He's going to be number 1. And a lot of the reason I believe Tory Horton is number 1 is because of his quarterback, Brayden Fowler-Nicolosi, BFN. Brayden Fowler-Nicolosi, he's from Aledo, Texas. This is a young man who dominated in the high school ranks. He gets to Colorado State. His first year, he redshirts. There's a starter in front of him, right? Clay Millen's the starter, and he starts last season on the bench. And then out of nowhere, he takes over and never looks back. Brayden Fowler-Nicolosi never threw for less than 200 yards in any game. Doesn't matter. Never threw for less than 200. He even threw as many as 462 yards in a game. This man, the only thing as a young freshman that he needs to learn how to do is not throw so many interceptions. Don't put the ball in harm's way. I watched the game. Well, I watched every single game he's played in. Let me just be clear. But I went back and watched every single one of his interceptions before I made this video. I wanted to double check something. And I wanted to see how many of his interceptions were tipped at the line of scrimmage. Maybe a freak accident. And when I started studying it, a lot of the same tendencies occurred. It would be a panic because the rush was coming, meaning his offensive line was just getting overworn. And instead of taking the sack or throwing it away, he would just chuck it up there and hope for the best. One of them, this Utah State game right here, where he went 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I went back and watched it. 57 attempts, which is absurd. You should not be throwing it 57 times. There's no balance on offense there. But they were winning this game 17-0 at one point, and they lose it 44-24. And there's a pivotal moment in the first half. He throws it up on a 50-50 ball in the end zone, and it's going to Horton, his number 1 receiver, and he loses that 50-50 battle. I want to tell you that in moments like that, you lose that battle right there. You lose that possession. You lose that chance to score, all that stuff. But I think if you are paired up with that same quarterback again in another offseason, another season of continuity, I think you win that rep next time. So I look forward to next season. And I think Colorado State's poised to win 7 games, go to a bowl game. I think that when you have a freshman quarterback like Brayden Fowler-Nicolosi right here, he threw for 3,400 yards as a freshman. He's got 3 more years to be the starter. He just knows what he's doing. He's just airing it out and rocking it. I love what he brings to the table. I love his gunslinger mentality. And there's going to be a lot of people that tell you, oh, well, so-and-so's a better quarterback. So-and-so's a better quarterback. But I'm telling you, when I look for raw athleticism, decision-making, and the ability, the arm talent to put the ball where you want it, this man has all of those things. Like, he has all the traits. There's a reason he won the job as a freshman. He didn't get it handed to him. He didn't inherit the starting position. He showed up, was on the bench, and had to prove himself at practice. And then once he got that opportunity, due to injury, once he got that opportunity, never looked back. It's phenomenal. I'm thoroughly impressed with Brayden Fowler-Nicolosi as a quarterback, and I think he and Tory Horton are probably the number 1 quarterback-wide receiver combo in the state of Colorado for sure. But I'm talking about in all of the group of 5. Just like I thought Austin Reed and Malachi Corley were last year, I look at these two and I go, man, forget the state of Colorado in itself. We're talking about 60 other group of 5 teams, maybe 68 of them, right? Well, however many it is. I think it's, I'm trying to do the math here. I think it's 67 group of 5 teams, and I'm looking at Brayden Fowler-Nicolosi and Tory Horton. I'm going, no one's better. And what's crazy is when you go and study Colorado State, Dallin Holker's coming back. This is a stud tight end. Just showed up, transferred in from BYU, dominating. BYU missed him thoroughly This is a great tight end. 767 yards. No one's covering this man. 6'5", 235. This is an NFL player. I promise you. That's an NFL draft pick in the future. Okay? Justin Ross Simmons, a young sophomore, 6'3", 205. Not a good matchup for any DB out there. You see it here. Went for 424 the first year. Last year, 724. You get a real quarterback who can spread the ball and find you. These guys are really good wide receivers. I like him. Now, I think Lewis Brown, he did hit the transfer portal. He left to go to San Diego State. You want to be closer to home. He's from Los Angeles. Shout out to him. You go back home, go to San Diego State. They'll get you the rock. But when you start looking at their running backs, I think wide receiver Dylan Goffney transferred in as well. Just recently transferred in. But their running backs, when you start studying them, they didn't use them effectively. But if you looked at the last 3 games of the season, these last 3 games, one running back emerged that nobody knows about, that nobody's talking about, and it's Justin Marshall. And I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you Justin Marshall won this job in those final 3 games. Imagine you don't play all season. They want to save your red shirt. But you've been killing it at practice. And they finally give you the rock, and we're looking at 119 yards, 98, 3 games in a row, averaging over 100 yards. 3 games in a row. These last 3 games, he averaged over 100 yards. He ended up with 311 in 3 games. I'm telling you, this Justin Marshall is about as bad as this girl in these photos here. I love what Justin Marshall's doing. I think that's a future star running back. Shout out to Indiana, right? Kobe Johnson, thank you for showing up. Thanks for your hard work. He was a transfer coming in. Shout out to the Bison. I always rep for a Georgia kid and a Georgia kid. But when you go look at the transfer portal, Mahia Pastor leaving to Bethune-Cookman, not a big deal. Crandall's transfer to West Virginia, don't understand it. I didn't think he was that great to begin with. Lewis Brown's a solid player. Grady Kelly going to Florida State, I don't get it. It's a hard pill to swallow when you lose a defensive lineman to Florida State, and he wasn't that great. He wasn't that great. All right, but he wants to go back home to Florida, I assume. Kicker, leaving, jumping in the portal. He just transferred in, no big deal. And there's Clay Millen, the former starting quarterback, left to go be the backup at Florida and eventually fight for a spot someday. But when you look at who else they brought in, you see this Donovan Ali right here? Donovan Ali's real deal. It says Cincinnati. He didn't play at Cincinnati. I don't think he was qualified, or the NCAA said he wasn't eligible. That is a Washington State wide receiver. That's a stud. Big, strong, powerful. I like everything about him, okay? So for me, I think Colorado State, bringing back the vast majority of their production, bringing back a star freshman running back they discovered late in the season, a freshman quarterback that straight up threw for 3,400 yards. There's no substitute for production. I don't want to hear about potential from anybody. This man did 3,400 yards. And then you go to that receiver core, and you see the top 3 pass catchers are coming back next year. His whole crew. These guys do choice routes. And I'm talking about Tory Horton. Untouchable. Unstoppable. Top 5 in receptions in the country. I think he was top 20 in yards and tied for 33rd in touchdowns. Pretty simple. Production for days. He's going to have another stellar season. He could have went pro. Could have went straight to the NFL. Instead, he decided, I'm going to go back to Colorado State and I'm going to do the damn thing. And I believe him. And on the defensive side of the ball, Jack Howell's back. Wilson's back. I think Sanchez graduated for good, but Blackburn's back. This is going to be your 5th-year senior right here. Blackburn, hey, he's a punisher. I'm cool with Blackburn. That kid's amazing. I like guys who play hard. Shout out to Colorado State and everything they do. I think they have the best quarterback and the best wide receiver combo you're going to find anywhere. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Watch the production. Argue all you want. Be subjective. Watch the production. You can't argue that.